Okay, so do you want to know why I moved to Seattle? In this video, we are going to go over the 5 reasons that I moved to the Seattle, Washington area. Now, as you may know, if you follow this channel, I was born and raised here, but I did escape to college for a number of years. It was very nice, and I ended up coming back with a husband. So in this video, I'll tell you why we decided to move here and see if that is something that you can relate to. Stay tuned. So if you're thinking about moving to the Seattle area and you're not sure if it's right for you, I'm going to go into some of the reasons that my husband and I chose to move here and make this our home. And I will say right off the bat that family was a big one for us. We had family in the area, but that may or may not apply to you. So I'm going to leave that one off the list and share with you 5 other reasons that we have chosen to stay here and live here and make this our forever home. Now, if it's your first time on the channel, I want to welcome you. I am a local real estate agent here in the Seattle area, and the purpose of this channel is to help people like you who are thinking of relocating to the greater Seattle area really get a feel for what the area is like and if it's going to be a fit for them or not. If you know that you're coming for sure, then dive into some of our neighborhood interviews and profiles so you can see things like where you're going to live to match the kind of lifestyle that you want. We have some vlog tours where we go drive around and you can see what it's like out on the main streets of Seattle and suburbs. And then we go into some other tips and tricks about how the home buying process really works. So all of that is here for you on the channel. Please subscribe so you don't miss any of our future videos released every week. And if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and put those in the notes. I love answering them. I have a heart of a teacher. It really does me good to have people interact, and I know that you're out there watching. So thank you so much and look forward to connecting with you. If you are thinking about buying a home or want tips as you relocate to the area, I would love to be your real estate agent. I'm shamelessly applying for the job. I have an orientation toward helping people and toward diving into the data. So if my style resonates with you, feel free to give me a call or look me up. My website is HomeProAssociates.com. So let's dive into some of the reasons that living in Seattle was for us, and it may be a good thing for you. So the first thing that I want to mention is jobs. Now, my husband, bless his heart, is a computer nerd. I'm just going to say it. Much love to all the computer nerds out there, but especially to my husband. So when we wanted to move, we knew that he was likely to have a job in computers, and we wanted an area that was tech friendly and had a lot of employment options. So he actually had his job. He was an independent contractor working for his former employer when we moved out here. And we decided to locate in Linwood, which is right at the top of Lake Washington. And this is a really good area to live if you're not sure where you're going to be working, because you can go north to Everett, you can go east to Bellevue, or you can go west to Seattle. So you have kind of 3 different employment centers right at your fingertips. And it's the same thing down at the bottom of the lake in the Renton area, which has previously been affordable and is quickly becoming popular because it's catching on that expansion and that high-end growth coming out of Bellevue. So you can go up toward Bellevue, you can go up toward Seattle, or it's a bit of a trek, but you can go south to Tacoma, Washington as well, which is another large city to the south of what I think of as the greater Seattle area. But a lot of people who may want to split the difference will find themselves in a really good location, kind of on the border, like by Federal Way, on the border between King County and Pierce County to the south. That gives you good access to both of those big cities. So if you're in the tech industry, you probably have already found that Seattle is a little bit like Silicon Valley North, with a lot of the FAANG companies represented here and tens of thousands of tech workers in this area. But there are a lot of other good jobs too. And if you and your spouse are both going to be looking for work, there are just a lot of employment options and high-paying employment options here in the area. Make sure you check the cost of living. I had a client, a potential client, who watched one of these videos, and he was from Tennessee. His wife was wanting to relocate out here, and she was getting an administrative job. So even though she was getting quite a pay increase to work in this area, it wasn't enough for them to buy the type of house that they wanted to. He was frustrated because he felt that the cost of living was so high here. So make sure if you are in the tech industry, you can check out my other video related to relocating for a tech job. And we've also got videos on the cost of living in the Seattle area just to prepare you for what to expect when it comes to buying a home and paying your other bills. You want to make sure you're comparing apples to apples when you look at that higher Seattle salary and find out whether it's enough to tempt you. The second reason we moved to Seattle was actually for the weather, which might seem weird because maybe you've heard that it rains a lot here, which is true. We don't have a ton of inches, but we do have a lot of gray skies. However, and I mentioned that my husband was in IT. He liked the idea of gray skies. He didn't want all that sun shining through the window, creating glare on his screen of all things. So for the right person, maybe those clouds are a big plus. For me, it came down to a big disappointment in the summer weather elsewhere. I was living in North Carolina where I went to college, where I met my husband, and where I started investing in real estate and lived there for about 8 years between doing all of those different activities. And what I found was that even though it was hot and I liked the idea of hot weather, the summers were kind of disappointing. Whenever it was warm enough to go out and spend an afternoon in the pool, like a thunderstorm would roll up, and there just ended up being a lot of clouds in the summer. Mind blown of all the things. There were clouds in the summer, there were bugs, it was too hot for people without air conditioning. And so we didn't end up doing a lot of things outside and taking advantage of that warm summer weather. My dad, who's from the Midwest, he's from Wisconsin, loves the summer weather in Seattle. He says, and I'm going to tell you this, but I don't tell just everybody, but the summers here are our best kept secret. We don't want all the Californians come. No, I'm just kidding. We love Californians. I have clients from California. Some of my best friends are Californians. Yeah, so we have great summer weather. It tends to be right in that comfort band between like 70 to 85. That's kind of our daytime high temp for most of the summer. If it gets into 90, well, people are talking about it. It becomes everyone's posting on Facebook how they're surviving the 90-degree temperatures. And there's old people can go into the library where they have air conditioning, because a lot of us here don't even have air conditioning. It's so comfortable in the summer that if you were the type of person that would turn on the air conditioning if it were above 80, you really only need to do it for a handful of days or weeks, maybe to help you sleep and that type of thing. And I built my house in 2015 and I don't have air conditioning. I didn't feel like we needed it. My husband sometimes jokes that we're going to get air conditioning, but I say no, it's character building for the children to learn what it's like to feel heat on their skin. And as far as the winter weather goes, the nice thing is you can go outside every single day of the year. We get a handful of days that it snows and you can see like everyone get excited. It's like a kid in a candy store. Well, we get to stay home from school. We won't have to go to work. We can just hide out in our house and go, throw snowballs, take a snow walk, go sledding on a hill because there are hills everywhere. Drink hot chocolate. It's kind of an excuse to play hooky for a couple of days. And then the snow melts and we're back to work. So I remember I had a friend, I think she lives in the vicinity of Yale, and she said they were thinking about moving. And I said, why? And she said, because her husband was getting so tired of shoveling all the snow every winter. And I said, oh, I didn't even know that was a thing. People's cars rusting out from salt. So we don't have all that snow. We don't have all that heat and humidity and bugs. We don't have thunderstorms. We just have a mild Mediterranean climate. I would say our winter is a lot like London, if you're familiar with London or have a perception of people walking around in stylish trench coats and scarves, sipping a Starbucks. That's us. That's us all winter. Then in the summer, we're maybe like Italy. I don't know. I've been to Italy a couple times, but it's sort of that dry Mediterranean climate where if you don't water your grass, it turns brown and goes dormant. And a lot of people don't water their grass. So very casual, very laid back, beautiful summer weather. Gotta love the summer weather. That's reason number 2. Reason number 3 that my husband and I decided to move here is that there's a very well-educated population. And I don't say this to be biased, or I hope it's not hurtful or derogatory in any way, but I have an image in my mind of like rednecks sitting out by the bayou drinking beer and like fishing all day or something, and kind of like those backwoods areas where time stands still and there's not a high emphasis on things like health and education and bettering yourself. I am more of a type A personality. I want to get ahead, do better, be better, always be improving. And I think in life, it's kind of a steel sharpens steel situation. You want to be around other rock stars, other people that are trying to move up, other people who are displaying and expressing and sharing the values that are important to you. And so, to the extent that you want people who have an emphasis on education, who have an emphasis on doing well in their career, who have an emphasis on caring about their families, enjoying nature, doing those types of things, I think you will find a lot of successful, educated, thoughtful people here who want to do good and be good in the world. And I think that that's really evident in a lot of the culture that's available here. It's not the friendliest area, so that's a bit of a difficulty. You won't have people, running out to meet that new person at the park and putting their arm in yours and getting your phone number. People here talk a lot about sort of the Seattle freeze. The locals are in a bubble. They don't necessarily talk and reach out to you. So that can be a challenge. That's a downside. I was used to it. A fish doesn't know it's in water. Having been in the South, I've experienced a little bit with people being more friendly, but I was in college and I was in an apartment. I didn't feel like I had the most in-your-face neighbors that I possibly could have. So I didn't feel overwhelmed or crushed by any of that in the South, and I don't feel lonely because of any of that lacking here in the Pacific Northwest. I think it's just a good thing to be aware of. A lot of people are on a mission. They've got work to do. They work hard. A lot of people are in IT. They're working on the computer. They're on screens. So just remember that you need to be the one to reach out, to make the first move, to get something on the calendar, to follow up with people, to email people. They'll tend to sort of passive aggressively not respond. And so if you want something to happen, just be sure you're the one to make it happen. But I would say overall, it's a well-educated area, lots of good values here, an emphasis on career and education. Being outside, I think, are some of the big ones. So if that sounds good to you, think about the values expressed in this area and the other areas that you're considering moving. So for reason number 4, I'm going to talk about the appreciation of homes in the area. Now, we did not have to buy a home here. We could have rented. We actually never rented a home in this area. And there are a couple of reasons for that. Number 1, I had been a real estate investor and already bought 12 or 15 properties as rental properties in North Carolina before ever moving out here. So I knew what it was like to be in a rental home and kind of have things that weren't quite right. We rented an apartment, which was great in North Carolina. I lived in the dorms when I was in college, which was all great. But moving to the Seattle area, I felt and I had seen that this was an area that offered strong appreciation potential. Now, at the time that I bought, it was probably close to the absolute worst time. It was, I believe, like in 2006 when the market was going up, up, up like a hockey stick. And then in 2008, it started coming back down. So I bought right before kind of a dip in the market. That being said, by the time that my husband and I were ready to sell our house, our first house, it was a condo townhouse in Linwood. We were able to sell it at a profit and we did great. But I think the difference, so that whole thing of keeping up with the rising cost of housing, that's one factor. Building equity is one factor. And for me, a lot of it was about controlling my own space, not having things break, being able to remodel if I needed to, being able to put pictures on the wall, just having that feeling of control. I mentioned earlier, I'm a little bit type A. I'm a little bit of a control person as well. So I don't like to be what we would call victim to a landlord. I didn't want to have my rents go up unexpectedly. I didn't want to get evicted or asked to move unexpectedly. A lot of people who I've talked with in the last couple of years are saying, hey, I want to switch from renting to buying. because I want to, my landlord just, increased my rent $400 a month or something. I mean, there have been some outlandish things that renters have to go through because it's such a strong market here. We deal with, dilapidated property that's not being fixed, property that seems very expensive. And so even though it can be more expensive on a monthly basis to pay a mortgage than to rent a property, those little graphs will cross at some point when your mortgage becomes much less expensive than your rent. As inflation goes up, rent continues to go up, your mortgage stays the same. And also as inflation goes up, your property value will tend to go up. So you'll be building equity. A lot of people have record amounts of equity in their property right now. Nationwide, this is one of the periods of highest wealth in terms of equity available in real estate, because we've just seen such a price increase over the last couple of years. And most people who do have wealth when they retire, a large part of that wealth is made up in their home equity. So I don't know if you're familiar with people who have retired, who are just living on Social Security income. But one thing that we have access to here in the Seattle area is the idea of a reverse mortgage. If you're over 62 and you have at least 50% equity in your home, you can start to draw down that equity and give yourself essentially a monthly payment. Instead of you paying a mortgage, the house is paying you, and a little bit is added to your mortgage each month. The house is paying you so you can continue to live in your home. You will never be forced to move or sell your home. They have a lot of rules and restrictions about how these are set up, but you can guarantee yourself a monthly income, which can really supplement your lifestyle and your cost of living needs in your retirement years if you have laid that framework by getting into a property, taking good care of it, and seeing it appreciate over time. So yes, I'm an investor. I like to have money and I like to have assets. And I think real estate is a fantastic asset, especially in the Seattle area. We have a very strong track record around here. Your mileage may vary, no guarantee. Past performance does not guarantee future results, but historically speaking, if you look at our numbers, they're very, very good. And reason number 5 that we wanted to live out here was to raise our kids in this area. Now, we did not actually have any kids when we first moved to the Seattle area, but we hoped to have kids in the future, and we wanted them to be in a place where there would be a lot of resources for children. That's everything from the public schools to the sports and little league games, educational opportunities like debate clubs, chess clubs, tennis clubs. We didn't know how nerdy our kids would be. It turned out they're exceptional. No, I'm just kidding. My son did just win the geography bee at school. My daughter won the spelling bee at school last year. So we do tend in that direction. But they also did track and soccer and volleyball and other things like that. We're trying to get that well-rounded balance for our college applications, right? They're in middle school and elementary school. That being said, what you see as your vision for your kids is very likely that there will be resources here to help them realize that. I've talked in other videos about how my son really enjoys doing outdoor schools. There are a lot of programs that take advantage of the beautiful Pacific Northwest that we're in, skiing classes, hiking, overnights, sailing trips, kayaking, boating. There's all sorts of different things. So kind of thinking about the childhood that we wanted them to have. We wanted them to be able to try a lot of different things, to get involved in a lot of different things, to be a citizen of the world. And I love traveling, but we can't always afford to travel. We can't always get away from work. We can't always, travel due to COVID and things like that. So you never know. But here in the Seattle area, even on a staycation basis, there's so much to do, so many resources, summer camps, spring break camps, all sorts of things for kids. And I think it really goes beyond the whole, playing tennis at the country club or being a lifeguard at the pool, in terms of just recreational opportunities, being in nature opportunities, family activity opportunities, internship opportunities, and the fact that there are so many colleges. There's the University of Washington, which is the big one. There's also Seattle Pacific University. There are different community colleges. So all sorts of educational opportunities, young people in a huge variety of roles, and just an opportunity for them to get involved with other kids and other people in the community in whatever types of activities they can, essentially whatever they can dream up. There are things like that to do here. So those are 5 reasons that my husband and I chose to move to the Seattle area. And don't forget about the people in your life. That's very important too. I would say the number one driver for most people that I talk to is a job. They're getting a job here. So relocation for employment is really a big thing. I'd love to find out a little bit more about what you're specifically interested in, and I'd be happy to answer those questions in the comments, or if you want to text or email me, reach out to me directly. If you give me an idea of what it is that you would like to do, I'd be happy to share any thoughts, any things I've heard about activities or resources in those directions, just to give you an idea of how many different things there are to do here. So let me know what your values are, what is important to you, and whether Seattle is going to be a big fit. What are your biggest concerns? Let's start a dialogue in the comments on this one, because I think my reasons may be very different from your reasons, and I just would love to connect with you and understand that a little bit better. So in the meantime, I'll look forward to reading your comments. Please subscribe so you don't miss future videos. And if you're thinking about buying a house here, I would love to be your real estate agent. I would be happy to give you all sorts of advice about finding the right neighborhood, finding the right house, and really matching your values and your desired lifestyle with the parts of town that you're looking in. And I'm going to put some more videos up here. These are other videos that YouTube and I agree that you're going to like to watch next. And I really hope you do. Make sure you subscribe, because we've got new ones coming every week too. So until then, I can't wait to hear from you, and I will see you on the next one.